If you're like me and most Spanish students, you want to make the most of your study time. And if you're like most Spanish students, you're always on the search for more and better vocabulary study methods. You want to increase your vocabulary. To do that, you need effective study methods and you also need great study tools. So today we're going to talk about one of the best study tools that you can have in your arsenal. So I want to tell you today about what is probably the most effective tool for learning Spanish words, and that is the humble but useful flashcard. So if we simply define what a flashcard is, it is an aid for memorization. You can use them for spaced repetition, you can use them for review, and you can use them for testing. You can either use them by testing yourself or you have somebody read the flashcards and test your knowledge. So flashcards are great for what they can help you do, but they're also great for a lot of practical reasons. First of all, they're cheap. You can buy ready-made flashcard decks. You can go on Amazon and you'll see a few different Spanish vocabulary decks, for instance, for sale. But I think it's better and cheaper if you make them yourself. And I'll explain that in a little while here. Second reason that they're practically good is they're portable. You can bring a deck of flashcards with you just about anywhere, and they don't take up a lot of space. You can put them in your pocket, put them in your bag, leave them in your car, and they're there for you to use. They're also easy to use. There's really not a lot to them. They're very simple in what they are composed of, and you can use them very easily without even having to learn how to use them, although I'm going to tell you what to do with them. They're quick to use. You can just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you can get a really good study session in. They're proven to work. Flashcards have been in use for centuries. There are records of them being used in language learning in the 1800s. Along with that is the fact that they don't need any technology. I like apps, I like technology, but flashcard doesn't need any of it. They just work. It's just printed material. So you might wonder, what is a good flashcard? What does it look like? How does it work? Well, remember I said the ones that you make yourself are probably the best. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One, they are the cheapest. Number two, you can custom tailor them to what you need. So how would you make a flashcard? To make a standard verb flashcard, for instance, there are a few elements that I think you should have. And I'll list them briefly and then I'll show you what a flashcard looks like. First of all, you should have the infinitive written on the front in Spanish. So at the top line of your card, just put the plain infinitive. Underneath that, you're going to have a verb conjugation chart, either 1 or 2 or 3 different tenses, whatever you happen to be studying at the time, whatever you need to review. So for instance, you could have a card that has the preterite tense and the present tense, and I'll show you an example of that. On the back of the card, you're going to write the English meaning of the infinitive, and then I would recommend that you write a few example sentences on the back so that you can review in context. I do believe in context learning, and I think that you should incorporate that into your flashcards. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. We have here a flashcard that has 2 tenses on it. I have preterite tense and then I have present tense, and this is for the verb tener. And on the back, we have the English definition of tener, which is to have. And I have 2 examples for this card. I have tuve suerte. I had luck. So that is first person singular preterite tense. Again, another example using that same tense. Tuve que trabajar. I had to work. And you can add additional sentences. Whatever you're having trouble with, whatever you want help memorizing, whatever you plan on reviewing, you should put on your card. Another way that you can do this, and I would recommend this, is color code your tenses. So on this card, I put the past tense in red and I put the present tense in green, and perhaps if I was doing future tense I would put that in blue. And there's a reason for that. When you see the color, you instantly associate that with a certain tense, and it helps you to separate those in your mind. At least it does for me. You don't have to do that, but it helps to separate them, especially when there are multiple tenses on one card. So you might wonder, what about nouns? So a noun is going to be a little bit of a different card. You're going to put the noun on the front in Spanish, obviously, and I would put that with the article. I would not just put the noun itself. You want to memorize the correct articles with the correct nouns so that you can learn the genders at the same time. So for instance, on the front of a card for a noun, you might put el libro. And then what I would recommend is on the back of the card, similar to the way you did for verbs, put the English meaning on the top back of the card. So for a card that would say el libro, the back would say the book. And then I would put the plural form as well on the front of the card if you have trouble with that. And regardless, I would put some example sentences, 1 or 2 at least, on the back. You don't have to do as many for a noun, but it's good to help you memorize and learn how the words are used by putting at least 1 example sentence. It helps in reviewing at least. So what I would do is just make yourself a set of cards. Go to Dollar General first of all, get a pack of index cards, get a couple of colored pens, and then I would look at maybe a list of the essential Spanish verbs, and I gave a list of those in my last video on the final boss of learning Spanish regarding conjugations. So I gave some essential Spanish verbs in that video, but you can look up lists of things like most common or most essential Spanish verbs, Spanish nouns, and then frequency word lists. Now, there are some people that don't believe in using frequency word lists, but in all the ones that I've looked at, those are words usually that occur in telenovelas or in conversation. So they're useful, and it's good to know a lot of those words. So I would start there as far as what to put on my deck. And that's really all you need. Go to the Dollar General, go to the Walmart, go somewhere and get a cheap deck of index cards, get some pens, write them out yourself, and then incorporate that into your study habits and your review times. So one last question. You might be asking, why should I make them myself? And that is simply because there is a certain amount of memorization that occurs and association in your mind that happens when you handwrite these things out by yourself on your own. And when you're reviewing them, that's going to be triggered to some degree. I don't have scientific evidence for that, but I do say that in my own experience, it's better to have handwritten something that I then review as opposed to something that was printed in a book or printed off of a computer screen. So I recommend you do it yourself. There's just something about it that hits different and helps you to memorize a little bit better. So that's all I've got for you. It's a very simple explanation of flashcards, but I urge you to incorporate that into your study habits, and it's going to help you memorize words a lot better, especially with those example sentences. Keep it fun, keep it light, but be consistent, and if you can do that, I promise you, you got this. Have fun, eat some tacos, talk to you later.